Get in the know. Non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
I think they beat, who they beat? Chicago. They beat some of the worst teams in the NFL on this little 3-game stretch that they are on, except Miami. Who Miami gifted it because they came down there on Christmas and they wanted to be a good gift and they gave all those interceptions. Minnesota ain't going to be bypass it just like you bypassed it. Minnesota will knock them out this week and prove that they don't want to see them in the playoffs.
I love that Michael Irvin is like the number one Vikings cheerleader. Like everyone around the country either ignores the Vikings or thinks they're frauds. And Michael Irvin's like, Cousins is the MVP. The Packers are screwed because they have to play the Vikings. Get Irv a purple tie to maybe wear on these shows.
It's remarkable. Like, he is just full bandwagon driving this thing. Every time I hear him, and like everyone else is always like very skeptical. Like, you can just tell but by the look in their eyes, like, no, this team's not that good. And he's just all in. It's hilarious.
Yeah, what's Irv going to do when his Cowboys and Vikings meet on a crash course in the NFC playoffs? How is he possibly going to choose? This is Purple Daily, by the way. Daily Vikings entertainment. Happy holidays to everyone. We hope you had a great weekend. If you celebrated Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever holidays, family, friends you're celebrating. We're back at full strength today here for a Tuesday episode of Purple Daily presented by our friends at TCL, one of the world's best-selling consumer electronics brands. They have a new lineup of award-winning TVs delivering the most entertainment with stunning resolution, all at an affordable cost. Enjoy more of the things you love with TCL. And also, I know Judd has been getting into some holiday surlies over the past couple days here, responsibly, of course.
Well, I stayed home, so it didn't have to be necessarily responsibly.
Did you guys visit any family, or you just hunkered down the whole weekend?
My sister and my brother-in-law came over on Christmas, but besides that, that's it. There's no family left. There's nothing. So, so it's like...
Well, Dawn's family.
Yeah.
They're in Iowa, and she didn't go. We used to go see them, but
you don't want that smoke south of that border.
Not from the roads there. Did you see the roads? So it's like ain't no one leaving. Everyone's staying home. And so I very responsibly got into, I got into Furiouses. I got into Logic Bombs. I believe there was a few before I dies. And my brother-in-law, God bless him, Don, brought over some Axeman and said, I thought you might like this. And I'm like this. I said, you are. You know me too well. So, yes, ho, ho, ho. You are right. Celebrate responsibly. But guess what? This weekend, fire it back up. Right, boys? New Year's Eve? I mean, come on. Surly.
New Year's Eve, and then wake up groggily and jump into Vikings vent line with us after what we now know is a meaningful Vikings-Packers game on New Year's Day. We were wondering if the Packers were going to limp their way to a relevant game, possibly frigid temperatures. I haven't even looked at the forecast for this weekend in Green Bay, but it's generally cold. Is it? Is it going to be nice?
It's nicer for Green Bay in January type.
It's going to be 34 here on Sunday.
Okay. So it might be a little colder. You get the water breeze out there. But either way, it's a January 1st Lambeau Field matchup. Did you guys think this would be a relevant matchup? And now, by the way, the Packers are 3.5-point favorites in this one. The Vikings are playing for seeding, basically. So they're watching 3 games. Let me pull up the schedule here. They're watching the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are playing the Raiders this upcoming weekend. The Eagles. Let's see here. The Eagles and also the Niners are games the Vikings are watching here. Mm-hmm. So, how do you sort of handicap this coming up this weekend?
First of all, Sunday in Green Bay, Wisconsin, high of 35, 40% chance of moisture, though. It looks like rain here. So I guess if it is above freezing, that's very possible, but it could be a wet oblong football. First of all, I'm very, very pleased because I thought for a long time that this was just a continued death march for the Packers and that this game, it's not that it'd be meaningless to the Vikings and their fans because it's always something when you play the Packers, but this should be way more fun now. The Packers are playing well for comparatively, but you know what? Michael Irvin's not wrong. I don't know if it was because he was concussed again or what, but I mean, that Dolphins game, the Dolphins were driving to win that game, and Tua melted down completely. And now, in retrospect, if he was truly playing with his third concussion that we know of, that would make some sense. But I think the Vikings, and I know the DVOA and all of that is on the Packers side, okay? But I think the Vikings are a better team. This is the first year that I can honestly say, and this is going to sound crazy, so save it for posterity's sake, that I would rather have Kirk Cousins than Aaron Rodgers for this season. I take Kirk more. I don't care about the stats. I care about the clutch gene. Kirk has been great. But I like the fact that this is now going to be a game where it means something, and it's going to be a competitive game. And you know what now, boys? If the Vikings win this game and just, as the great Wayne Larrivee says, dagger the Packers, how much more fun is it to dagger the Packers with the Packers actually having something to play for? I love how this sets up.
Yes. And by the way, I'm an idiot. I got the games right here now. So Eagles and Saints. Saints have won 2 in a row. Eagles playing without Jalen Hurts, I'm assuming, again this weekend. Do we have an update on that?
We don't know yet. He basically, they said if he feels he can play, he'll play, but they're still being, I bet he doesn't play.
But Saints are playing still for a division, shockingly. They're sitting like 3 games below 500, but only a game back of the Buccaneers. So they're still fighting for a division. So that's an interesting one. The Eagles would have to lose out, and the Vikings have to win their last 2, but the number 1 seed is very much in play after what happened with the Eagles losing to Dallas. And then it's the Niners and the Raiders. The Niners just, continue to steamroll their way. But the Vikings have to stay a full game in front of the Niners as long as the Niners have the better conference record, which they do. And then I'll throw the Cowboys-Titans in there just because it could affect the landscape of the NFC. If the Cowboys overtake the Eagles would be a wild card team, but it would change. Like right now, we've been looking at an NFC playoff picture that has the Eagles as the bye week team. And so just something to watch. It doesn't necessarily affect the Vikings seeding if the Cowboys take over the Eagles, but it affects the landscape of the NFC playoffs. So Dex, what are your thoughts on a kind of an unexpectedly competitive game here this weekend against the Packers?
I think it'd be delicious if you just went into Green Bay and beat them and basically mostly ended their playoff hopes. I know there's still a path, right? If the Packers lose and the Giants lose out, they're not completely dead, but they're on life support again if the Vikings beat Green Bay this week in Lambeau.
The Commanders could the Commanders lose out?
Yeah.
I think mathematically the Giants are ahead of the Packers now because they only have.
They can backdoor their way even if they lost this game. But it would be great if you just went in there, you swept Green Bay, you beat the crap out of them in week 1 of the season. The Vikings are still riding this Vegas underdog story where they're a 5-win better team, and yet they're 3.5-point dogs on the road in Green Bay because the Packers have won 3 in a row and it's Aaron Rodgers. I would love to see the Vikings just go in there and end the Packers season essentially and basically be the nail in the coffin of Aaron Rodgers' potential tenure in Green Bay. How amazing would that be? I mean, go back to the start of the season and think, all right, week 1 is Vikings and Packers, and great storyline here. Rookie head coach Kevin O'Connell inheriting Kirk Cousins and this offense. What is it going to look like? And looking back on it, that's the most convincing win the Vikings have had through 4 quarters this season. And now you fast forward here where Green Bay stumbled through the first 2 months of the season. They've kind of resurrected themselves. But now here are the Vikings again to basically be the Undertaker and Paul Bear building this casket for Yokozuna. Only Phil's going to get that reference instead of Judd. And they can actually be the ones that can end their season. So I'm excited for it.
I love that this is competitive. I think this is I hate it when fans root for the easiest path, and we all fall into this trap. Well, because we did an episode on this last week. I can't remember if it was we ranked the 5 teams the Vikings could play in the first round with Royce, right? It's like, well, who do you want to avoid? Who do you want to? And as you're mapping this out a month ago, you're thinking, oh, that Packers game is going to be a cakewalk because Jordan Love's going to be starting, and then the Bears are going to be checked out and whatnot. I love that it's shaping up this way. And I love that the Bears might be fighting to end the season on a high note. You're playing tough road games. I know that you're already in the playoffs. This isn't like, it's not necessarily a playoff game per se, because if you lose, there's really very little consequence. The worst thing that can happen to you is that you become the 3 seed instead of the 2 seed in the NFC. So you still play a home playoff game. But like Declan said, you can just put them to bed completely if you win this game. If you lose this game, it opens a possibility of you playing the Packers in the first round of the playoffs. Now, if you lose this game, it's likely the Niners would catch you. You would be the 3 seed playing likely the 6 seed Giants, but that's still up in the air over the next couple weeks as well. So just some interesting things. If you don't put the Packers away, you leave the door open for them to get in, and then B, to get in and face you just a few weeks after they beat you. So put it all to bed. It's all in front of you. You're underdogs again. It's great whiteboard material for Kevin O'Connell this week. No one believes in us. They've been able to play that card about 12 different times this season, and they can play it again going into Lambeau.
The one thing I'm done doing, because it's just so obvious with how these cardiac Vikings operate, is this: I'm done being surprised or offended by the spreads. Because, going back to the Cowboys game, it's like, hold on a second here. At that point, the Vikings, I think, had lost 1 game. And you're telling me at home that they're I think they were dogs in that game, correct?
I believe so.
I want to say Dallas was like a 2-point favorite going into that game. And so at the time, it's like, what the hell are you, yes, they might not be great, and then they get absolutely drilled. And the way that this year has played out, it's just so obvious that nothing is going to be easy. It's so like every game is going this whole thing of, well, you know what, eventually they're going to blow out a team. I got news. There's 2 regular season games left and then playoffs. And it has not happened in any way, shape, or form really since the first game, right? So like I'm done debating the point spreads, and I'm done thinking, well, eventually here, they're going to play, take your pick. They're going to play the Giants, and they're going to put up, they're going to win by 21. Like this team thrives. Its identity is everything is difficult, but they're successful.
Yeah. Yes. It's, I think it's more likely that their first blowout win, if they have a blowout win, it's more likely to me that it happens in the first round of the playoffs at home against the Commanders or something than on the road against a desperate Packers team. I put it this way: I would be thoroughly impressed if their first blowout win came this weekend against the Packers. If it was like a 31-13 just throttling, and Aaron Rodgers throws a couple interceptions and there's infighting on the Packers sideline or something, that would be just a delicious way to basically end your regular season.
Don't get your hopes up.
The Bears, I think, are going to be hard because you're going to have to Justin Fields, if he plays in week 18, I don't know that the Vikings linebackers are going to contain him for 3 hours. So I don't know if I see that being a blowout. Plus, if you beat the Packers, you're going to be like, that game's not going to matter. You're going to rest starters. So if there's going to be a blowout win, it could be like the first round against the Commanders, or you just have to concede, like Judd's saying, that you're not going to have one. You've gotten this far. Every game is going to give you a heart attack in the fourth quarter. So any other thoughts on Vikings Packers before we get to a major dodged bullet?
No, I'm just
You guys
excited.
are good? You ready? Okay. Well, the Vikings interviewed Nathaniel Hackett, as we've talked about previously on the show. And I believe you can find incriminating evidence on this very show from almost a year ago saying, boy, that some interesting articles about this Nathaniel Hackett guy. Seems like a good front of the room speaker. Aaron Rodgers vouches for him. Other guys around the NFL have said, wow, he's just kind of he's a guy that lights up a room and connects well with quarterbacks. And
he's impressing teams in the interview process.
He is, yes. And he was one of a couple handfuls of coaching candidates that the Vikings wound up bringing in for interviews, and they moved in the direction of Jim Harbaugh and Kevin O'Connell for their finalists. I think wasn't the guy from San Francisco, defensive coordinator guy. He was
DeMeco
one of
Ryans.
DeMeco Ryans.
Yes, I think he took himself out of the race by saying that he didn't think he was yet prepared to be a coach, but he will be in 2023. So don't worry about D'Amico Ryans.
I mean, I don't think his stock has not fallen at all this season. And so the Vikings, I don't know if they smelled something or if they got a sense first, or maybe they did like Hackett a lot, but they like Kevin O'Connell better. But holy cow, have you guys seen a more epic plane crash in NFL history, both with Nathaniel Hackett and with Russell Wilson this season?
It's right up there, and it might be one. So I tweeted this yesterday. So the Urban Meyer disintegration wasn't entirely shocking because I've always, just from a starting point, thought this guy's a college coach. He's a bully, which college kids, respond to. But
yeah,
it was worse than I thought possible in Jacksonville, but it wasn't completely shocking. This one is a first-year coach who seemingly was on the correct track. The fact that he was not successful does not shock me. The circumstances, and I mean, he flat out, the final straw was the Christmas Day meltdown between the backup quarterback and the lineman who shoved, I think it was Rippon, right?
Yeah, Rippon.
Brett Rippon shoved him on the sideline, and like Hackett had no control. He had lost complete control. He couldn't, I mean, let's go through the checklist. Okay. So like when you sat down and I went back and looked, the Broncos conducted hours of interviews. They sat down with him for hours. Can you run a game? So just from a starting standpoint, because you're going to be my coach. So you have to be able to run a football game.
We found out in week 1 he couldn't.
Yes. And by the way, that's not easy. Like I would never take it for granted that, this guy can get by. I need to know, can you run a damn game? After week 1, in which he totally screwed the pooch, they came back the next week at home and the fans were counting down the play clock. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
10, 9.
Yeah.
They then go
Real
and
rumble.
get Jerry Rosberg, I believe is his name, a former Baltimore assistant coach, off his couch. He is now the interim head coach.
Yeah.
He was the game management coach. So that's just a starting point. The Russell Wilson stuff is incredible. And that's a whole nother thing. And I don't understand how George Payton's going to survive that one. Because
I don't think he is.
Okay, because that's looking to be, that might make the Herschel trade. That might bump it down.
So it's going to go Herschel trade, unfortunately the Gobert trade, and then the Russell Wilson trade.
No, I'm saying I think Russ is George Washington though.
Oh, you're putting him at the top of the Mount Rushmore.
Look at what they gave up in 2000. I mean, at least the Vikings trade at the time, draft picks were a big deal. But I mean, that was what, October of 89. So we're now talking at a time where draft picks are absolutely coveted. And you gave up a slew of them for a guy who looks like he's washed up.
Dude, I had, I don't know, someone found a tweet over, why would you do this to a man on Christmas Eve and Christmas, okay? Let a man's bad takes just take a couple days off over the holidays. Someone found a tweet from me back in January saying, basically like, the Vikings should do whatever it takes to sniff around Russell Wilson's availability. And I don't know, you and I, we did some shows on this, as the Vikings, there were some rumors that they might look to trade Kirk Cousins or whatever. So we did a couple Russell Wilson shows, and there's a lot of like, what a bad take that was. If you can find me the person or people that correctly predicted that a Hall of Fame resume quarterback who's gonna go to a quarterback friendly organization, they're going to hire an offensive-minded coach, and then he was going to drop off the planet and look like one of the 3 or 4 worst quarterbacks in the NFL, then I want to travel to Vegas with whoever that person is. A lot of us were wrong about Russell Wilson, and it's sort of shocking. Not only is he terrible, his team and his teammates have always thought he was a little weird because he's kind of corny.
He is weird.
And he's hokey.
He is weird.
But it's never been like teammates hating his guts, and the offensive linemen turn their backs on him when he gets sacked. He just lays on the ground. And that was part of the argument on the sidelines that you referenced. So for there to be this level of toxicity and infighting and players hating the quarterback and resenting him, that's the coach's job to come in and try to make it work. And he failed Hackett from the I mean, Russell Wilson has failed too, but Nathaniel Hackett, I'm just wondering what this show's tone would have been like after 3 months of that guy as the head coach for this team and Cousins, and because it would have been a train wreck compared to what Kevin O'Connell has been able to do. Oh,
God, yeah. Speaking of that, mid-January, Chad Graff, who at that point was covering the Vikings for The Athletic, mid-January tweeted this after Nathaniel Hackett interviewed with the Vikings. The Vikings were very impressed by him, but the Broncos were able to make him an offer before the Vikings decided on finalists, so the Packers OC heads west.
Wow.
Perhaps making Denver especially alluring for a certain quarterback, which at the time was Aaron Rodgers.
Yes, that's right.
That was the original goal. The original goal was to pair Aaron with Hackett, not Wilson. But here's where the Vikings wisely dodged the bullet, and it's why I've never understood the hiring process. So the Vikings talked to him and were impressed in mid-January, but they weren't done talking to people, including O'Connell, who, of course, his team went to the Super Bowl. So what I don't understand, and this goes back to 2006 with Childress, when the Vikings made the same exact mistake that the Broncos made. The need to decide that the hot candidate or a hot candidate, that you have to jump in line and hire him. You don't complete the process. One, we're afraid that someone else will come in and swoop in. And the second thing is, well, the combine's coming and we got to have a coach in place. Look at how good and smart the Vikings look, because they said, you know what? We will be so patient that they named O'Connell coach deep into February. They had agreed with him 2 weeks before that, but they couldn't introduce him. He couldn't be here. But the need, when you go back to 06 with Childress, it was the same thing. The Eagles had made extended playoff runs the past 2 years, and I think in 05 they missed the playoffs entirely. And so now Brad was free. And that's where the Vikings got Childress here in a hotel and sequestered him and wouldn't let him leave. He was supposed to go to the Packers next. And he always said, if I had gone to Green Bay, I would have gotten that job. Well, first of all, that's not true. But second of all, think about just being a little patient. Think about what that does as far as allowing you to vet the system entirely. Yeah. So, kudos to the Vikings in this case, because I know it's tough, but you basically got the right guy because you were willing to wait to get the entire system, the entire process done.
Here's another question for you, because I think at this point, I don't know what Russell Wilson's future looks like, because he just looks broken. Maybe he's broken in part because he's just physically not the same quarterback that he used to be. But I think this just wound up being a nightmare pairing, that Nathaniel Hackett, it's not enough to just be an offensive mind. You have to be a leader and a collaborator and someone that can get the locker room to buy in. It wasn't like it's not that Kirk was toxic or anything before Kevin O'Connell got here, but there was a rift between coach and quarterback, and a lot of guys looked at Kirk not necessarily like they look at Russell Wilson in Denver, but they didn't look at him as like the Tom Brady figure that was going to take us all to glory. And there's much more of that feeling this season, in large part because the head coach has come in, validated Kirk, gets Kirk to play at a high level in moments of high leverage, right? And it all kind of comes together that way. Mm-hmm. What would Russell Wilson look like if Kevin O'Connell were his head coach? If the Broncos had hired Kevin O'Connell, or if the Vikings had spun some big quarterback carousel, and said, we're moving on from Kirk, but we're going to bring Russell Wilson into pair. Hell, people talk about Sean Payton. Now, Sean Payton's putting together apparently an all-star coaching staff that includes Vic Fangio as his defensive coordinator. If that happens, they're not going to Denver because Denver fired Vic Fangio. But is Russell Wilson just cooked, or is it, hey, he needs to just be with a Kevin O'Connell type or a Sean Payton type, and you're going to see Hall of Fame Russell Wilson come back?
Well, I think he's a bit cooked, but I think it's speaks largely to the fact that Hackett is clearly one of these guys who's probably a really good coordinator, and that's it. And so it would be really interesting to go back now and see if the pairing that the Broncos imagined had come true. If Rodgers could have been acquired, right? And then he goes with Hackett to Denver. Because Hackett also, outside of the quarterback, when you can't run a game, you can't run a game. That's not that decision in week 1 in Seattle was one of the worst pieces of coaching I have ever seen. That's something a high school coach. He didn't stop the clock.
Dude, it was insane. Yeah,
it
was hilarious.
And then he acted like, well, I guess I should have, dude. You screwed the pooch beyond belief there. And it was also clear, and this is what O'Connell has going for him, and it has nothing to do with offensive coaching, but it's so important. It's also clear that O'Connell owns the locker room. When you have guys, when you literally have your backup quarterback trying to defend Russell Wilson, who, like him or not, is going to the Hall of Fame, and on the sideline in front of God and every camera possible, the offensive lineman is shoving the backup QB. You've lost complete control.
Dude, that offensive lineman, I believe, was the Broncos' Walter Payton Man of the Year.
Dalton Risner?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And he's just, I mean, I don't know anything about him other than, well, he shoved a backup quarterback and doesn't want to help his quarterback up off the mat. So he's not helping
the backup quarterback. Like, can you imagine that? The backup quarterback. It's not Russ.
I know. I just, I believe in the magic of Kevin O'Connell's culture. Call me pie in the sky or Pollyanna. I think it has helped Kirk. I think it would help other quarterbacks. I think we're finding out, this is where I was the most wrong about the 2022 Vikings, that if you replace a toxic coach-quarterback relationship with a very collaborative, close-knit quarterback-coach relationship, it can do wonders for even a 34-year-old old dog that's been in the league for 10 years in Kirk Cousins, and it can obviously do wonders for a locker room. So that's probably, if I could have one mulligan. We're wrong a lot on this show. We're right a lot too. When you're slinging takes every day, you're going to be right, you're going to be wrong. But I didn't give enough credit to Kirk having another level to his game when paired with the right head coach. And that's why I'm not going to write Russell Wilson off going into age 35 completely. I would be curious to see him with a Sean Payton or a Kevin O'Connell type. I'm not suggesting the Vikings move on from Kirk and acquire Russ. Just want to be clear. But circumstance, environment, coaching can matter even for 34-year-old old dog quarterbacks, as we have found out this year.
Toxic's not good. Like, toxic is not good. And sports karma is real. Like, the Vikings, look, they have gotten fortunate. They've created their own breaks, to their credit as well. But, like, when you look, this year is so intriguing because there is a lot to be learned. Like, O'Connell can learn a lot coaching-wise because he's gotten breaks, which is good. But sports karma and being a voice that can run that room, and I keep coming back to it, the genius of O'Connell is he is wired like a really good quarterback. That's what impresses me. He controls the environment. And he does it in a positive way. He doesn't do it in a trying to put guys down. He does a marvelous job. I mean, he clearly had everything to be a star QB except for one thing, talent. So, like, but the way he's wired and the way he talks and the way that, and in your defense a little bit on Kirk, Phil, I do think that there's one thing, though, at the time that no one could have predicted. If Kirk Cousins had been a truly successful QB and won a bunch of playoff games in Washington, then you could have dumped on Zim completely. But he wasn't. He was, up until 2022, a 500 QB. He was a 500 quarterback. And so I think it's important that O'Connell, to his credit, also is the first guy we've seen who has really come in and fundamentally gotten the most from Kirk when it matters most. Not the statistics, but the actual wins and a clutch gene that none of us had seen before this season.
Yep. So interesting. And so now Denver is left to try and pick up the pieces. They probably have to hang on to Russell Wilson for a couple more years based on the contract they signed him to.
They do have to, right? Like, I think you're right.
I think they, even if they trade him, I think they have to eat a huge chunk if they trade him too. So they're just kind of stuck looking for a coach. Yikes. And so maybe there is value in short-term contracts for quarterbacks. Maybe Kirk Cousins has been doing us all a favor all along. Just take it year by year. Gentlemen, Prize Picks is a great way to fade bad quarterbacks if you want to. Or if you have faith in Kirk against the Packers this weekend, here's what you can do. Pick between 2 and 5 players and an over-under on their projections. You can win up to 10 times on any entry. PrizePicks offers every major sport, and you can run mixed sport entries. So, this time of year you got NBA, NFL, NHL, you got MMA events every month, PGA firing back up. You can run mixed sport entries and spread your knowledge across multiple sports. Use the promo code NORTH, and PrizePicks will match your first deposit up to $100. And you can help us by telling them that we sent you by using promo code NORTH, prizepicks.com, and the PrizePicks app. And a shout-out to our friends at the official sports bar of the Sports Dad and Purple Daily, Park Tavern in St. Louis Park.
Yes, that's exactly right. And imagine like all of the things. If you want the perfect bar, eat, drink, watch games, bowling, everything is available to you. Park Tavern open 365 days a year. And guess what, too? They are always prepared for your group. So if you have, I don't know, a party or a fantasy league draft, it's this simple. Give them a call, 952-929-6810, or go to parktavern.net, and book your group for a party at the best place in town to have it. Park Tavern, SLP, parktavern.net is the website.
Boys, it's time to rank some football teams here. I'll throw this up for the audience decks on YouTube. It's the Pigskin pecking order, where we rank the top 10 teams in the NFL every single week. The Vikings have been in the 10 for basically the whole season. So we'll take you through this real quick, and then Judd will rank. He'll guess the PFF grades before the show is over. But let's start here, boys. We're pretty consensus on the top teams in the league. So all three of us put our top 10 in order, and then we do an aggregate here. So there's some differences, but we all agree the Eagles are number 1. The Chiefs are number 2. The Buffalo Bills are number 3. There's some dissension there. San Francisco 49ers, 4. Cincinnati Bengals, 5. Those are your top 5 teams. Bengals, Bills play each other, I think, on Monday night this week.
That's gonna be great.
Yes.
Should be a fun game.
Burrow Allen, you're right.
Dallas Cowboys, number 6. And we have the Minnesota Vikings as the 7th best team in the NFL right now. Followed by Baltimore, the Chargers, who clinched their first playoff berth in the Justin Herbert era last night, and the Jacksonville Jaguars popping back up into the Pigskin packing order as they have a chance to win their division. So Eagles, Chiefs, Bills, Niners, Bengals, the top 5. Cowboys, Vikings, Ravens, Chargers, Jaguars. Declan had the Vikings 6th. Judd, you and I both had the Vikings as the 7th best team in the NFL. So, and one just a couple quick points of dissension here. So Dex has the Bills 5 behind the Niners and the Bengals. I'm not going to fight you. I do think the Bills are the 3rd best team, but
yeah,
Niners and Bengals, those are also Super Bowl contenders. So
correct.
The only big one is, Judd, you and I both had the Cowboys 6, Vikings 7. Declan flipped it, had the Vikings 6 ahead of the Cowboys at 7. Even though the Cowboys dismantled the Vikings at US Bank Stadium. So what's your thought there?
I think the Cowboys are stumbling a little bit. I know they beat the Eagles, last week with Gardner in town, but Dak looks like a mess. That defense isn't as good as it used to be. They look a lot more vulnerable. In fact, they just don't look like the same football team that beat the brakes off the Vikings here 2 months ago. And in fact, I would say the Vikings have looked like the better team since that game, and the Cowboys have dropped down a peg. So that's kind of my logic. I know the black eye is there from the Cowboys kicking the Vikings' butt, but I think the Vikings over that time have been the better team. So that's my logic there.
Dude, I would love a Cowboys rematch. It would be so much fun at US Bank Stadium again. I want to see the Vikings again against the Cowboys, and I want to see them against the Eagles again, even if it results in some sort of embarrassing 42-10 meltdown. I'd love to see those games. I'd love to see Kevin O'Connell have to adjust to the thrashing. What could they drum up as a counterpunch in those rematches?
I think Jefferson has a far stronger game. Like he didn't have, he ran the wrong route. I think it was on the first Kirk pick around the 2 in that game. Jefferson, I think, would have a cleaner game, which would help. But the Dallas game, I would like to see them play Dallas, because until they do, I can't unsee the devastation, the destruction I saw. I mean, that was... Dex is right. Dallas has not played as well since consistently. But nonetheless, just seeing that domination of a home team in the midst of a really solid season, until I see that happen, I think I'm going to have a problem putting the Vikings over the Cowboys.
Yeah,
I think that's fair to say.
So there it is. Vikings is the 7th best team in our pigskin pecking order. I think a win against the Packers at Lambeau, coupled with maybe... one of these other teams faltering, could vault the Vikings. It's going to be tough to get the Vikings back in the top 5 unless one of these other teams really stumbles. But, Bills, Bengals, one of those teams is going to stumble on Monday. Yeah. So we'll see.
And I think my reasoning for having the Bengals too high is I trust Joe Burrow more than I trust Josh Allen. That's kind of where I'm at with that. There is just this weird, cool, calm, collected thing with Joe Burrow that's so awesome to see. It's a I don't give a bleep mentality, and I love it.
Yeah, that guy knows what he's doing.
I don't think his heart rate spikes.
It doesn't. It stays the same.
Yeah,
That's Montana. Montana had that exact same thing. His heart didn't change.
I think it's Judd Zolgad. Write that down. Just cool, calm, collected.
Oh yeah,
can take the hits.
Yeah, I'll check
that. Taking a lot of hits.
That's right.
Just like Kirk.
All right, let's play a quick game of Judd guesses the Vikings PFF grades from that Christmas Eve win over the Giants. Perfect. So this is putting Judd's longtime grizzled sports writing, reporting, radio, podcasting career to the test here. The eye test versus the PFF film study.
All right. And unlike last week, I have no idea. I have not seen one grade yet, so I did not cheat, unlike last week. Although the guy that I did see his grade last week, I'm going to put back in the defense. But let's start with the offense.
Okay. So, offense, we're looking for the 3 best players. And as always, it's 20 snaps or more to qualify here. So it could be starters or backups.
I got to start with the guy who had a fantastic game, as Declan called, I believe, TJ Hawkinson. Oh, that was a tip-off. Hawk season.
ScoreNorth.com/shop.
Yeah, where can
ScoreNorth.com/shop.
Looks very nice.
That's right. Thank you.
All right.
He was the second highest graded player for the Vikings in that game.
Hard to dismiss a guy who went for 133 receiving yards, Justin Jefferson.
He was the number 1 graded player.
Very good.
And then I'm going to go back to an old standby, because every week PFF just drools over this big man's play. His blocking makes PFF just smile, and that's Brian O'Neill. Oh!
You almost ran the table there. O'Neill was smack dab in the middle.
Oh my goodness gracious.
So O'Neill in this game, let's see here. He only allowed the 1 pressure. He struggled in the run blocking game, according to PFF.
What do they know?
And that's one of those hidden things that you're not going to watch. You're not going to see that watching live on TV or in the press box unless you're staring at right tackle play for 3 hours. But he struggled to get hands on defenders in the run blocking game.
Okay, so I got 2 wrong guesses left.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to go with Christian Darrisaw then.
There you go. That's the other Mr. Reliable. He was the 3rd highest graded player. Yeah, Darrisaw, once again, he did allow, I think, his 3rd sack of the season, 3rd or 4th. But that was the only pressure he gave up in 72 snaps. And he was also a road grader as a run blocker. He is legitimately one of the best left tackles in the entire NFL.
Absolutely.
The 3 worst graded players, Adam Thielen was the worst graded player.
Yeah, he didn't do anything.
Austin Schlottman struggles in pass protection. He was second.
Got to get Bradbury back. I never thought I'd say that. My God, what's happened to me?
Well, he's played well. And Johnny Munt was the 3rd. Johnny Munt might be it.
Back off, Johnny Munt. Okay,
I love
PFF.
I love the Adam Amin. He's having a career season. It's like, well, yeah, there's been 1 reception to his name outside of this year.
The bar was pretty low, guy.
All right, Adam.
All right, we're looking for the best defensive players for the Vikings. Judd, 20 snaps or more in this game?
Danielle Hunter.
Danielle Hunter was the number 1 graded defensive player. 7 pressures. He was credited with 3 sacks, according to Pro Football Focus in this game.
Amazing what happens when he's used correctly. Amazing.
Wow.
I am going to then guess the guy who was the number 1 graded guy last week, and I think he played well again, and that is the Duke of Shelley.
Duke of Shelley. The Duke was the 3rd highest graded player for the Vikings.
What a
How
find.
about it?
6th round pick of the Bears, and this kid has turned. I mean, and that's a tough position. Wow, am I impressed by the Duke?
How about this? So he had 3 stop tackles in this game. He was targeted 8 times. 8 targets, only 48 passing yards on 8 targets allowed by the Duke, and only 15 yards after the catch on 5 catches. So just Shelley Island, man.
Duke of Shelley hoodies are next. Duke of Shelley hoodies, baby. Print the shirts.
We should wave your Duke of Shelley flag.
Here we go. Hold on, Stella, give me the flag. I told you I might have to come out. Oh, there it is, the Duke of Shelley. The Duke of Shelley flag. Okay, and now you need my 3rd guess, and this one's going to be tougher. I don't.
Dude, this is impressive. Judd's only had 1 incorrect guess.
Yeah, good job, Judd.
This might derail me though. This one to me is tougher.
It's tough too because they play a lot of defenders now.
Yeah,
it's not like offense where they're pretty much playing the same like 12 or 13 guys.
The defensive line rolls a lot now, which is fine, but yeah, that makes it tougher. Okay, I am going to guess Harrison Phillips.
Harrison Phillips was actually the worst graded defensive player for the Vikings.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it was bad.
Oh, I went from the outhouse
a struggle bus.
The penthouse to the outhouse. Okay, was he really?
Yeah. He had no pressures on 25 pass rushing snaps too, and he's not a huge pressure guy, but like, come on.
Okay, I'm not. This is difficult, so I'm not guaranteeing I'm going to get this one, but I'm going to go back to another guy that plays more now. And it feels like PFF has looked favorably upon his play and the way that he's used consequently. Was it Tonga time?
It wasn't this week.
No!
It's been largely he was actually the 3rd worst graded player that played 20 or more snaps.
Oh my God.
Better.
He did have, so here's the thing. He did have 3 pressures in only in limited snaps. And he had a sack. But he apparently got moved around very much in the run game. So that was
all right. 3rd and final guess. I will go with Danielle Hunter's colleague, Zalarius Smith.
Zalarius. People are like, why do you guys say it that way? Because we believe in the power of Randy and Cottage Grove.
Yep.
But in this case, he was the 6th highest graded player.
All right. Who is it?
Bank this one for a talker sometime in the near future. Brian Asamoah was the 2nd highest graded player in this game.
Yeah.
And I think this is the most defensive snaps. So he had 27 defensive snaps in this game.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were in the first half. He essentially took over full series for both Jordan Hicks and Eric Kendricks. And he winds up with the big he got burned in coverage on the play. But he winds up stripping the ball away. And they gave him a 91.7 coverage grade in 21 coverage snaps.
Oh wow. Okay, I didn't see that coming.
And see, he's never been like touted as a big time coverage linebacker, but he's so much faster than his other 2 counterparts there. So
and he can get to guys, so
there it is.
Do.
Great work, Judd. Let's shout out a couple more friends here too. I know you guys have to get to a bonus scoop session with Doogie today, but thanks to our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company for helping keep the lights on at Purple Daily, Score North every single day, and for helping countless businesses over the past 100+ years. They provide a great, comforting, navigating hand for your business, and they're all about measuring the success of their business by the success of your business. So it's a true partnership when you partner with Federated. Federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. And doesn't matter if it's a holiday, doesn't matter if it's just a regular old Tuesday. We always feed our dog Maya and your dog Stella, same thing.
She's right back there.
The same food because it keeps her digestive system consistent. She loves it. Nutrisource chicken and rice. Nutrisource, Minnesota made, distributed throughout the country, and putting smiles on dogs' faces for generations, Judd.
Yes, and Phil, don't forget how much that both of these dogs also love the training rewards treats that you can see right there by Stella. She is a major, major fan. In fact, she finds ways even in this cold to go outside more so that she can come in because she knows right there's going to be good old Pop with a treat from Nutrisource.
Amen. All right, that's a wrap on this Tuesday episode here of Purple Daily Vikings Entertainment. Again, happy holidays to all of you. We appreciate all the well wishes coming our way from all of you guys, and we'll see you tomorrow for some predictions on Write That Down. Purple Daily Vikings Entertainment.